Boekema Crazies.
Boekema Crazies. That was an excellent intro. My goodness. Het jy dit gedoen, Annelies?
Ja. Yep.
Okay. How was that, Sally?
Amazing. I was like,
it was great. Well done.
Thanks. So julle, ons kuier saam met Zelda. Ek sê nie eers meer Bezuidenhout nie, want sy is nou al deel van die meubelsie by ons. So die Zelda Bezuidenhout en Sally Partridge, wat Skerwe, Sally het Skerwe geskryf en Zelda het dit vertaal en hulle gaan vanaand vir ons baie van die boek vertel en ons sien baie uit om meer daarvan te hoor. En dan natuurlik Trisa is ook hier. Hallo Trisa.
Hallo julle almal, hallo Annelies. Soos julle kan sien, ons praat uit 'n baie koue Kaap uit vanaand. En Annelies is reg, Zelda dit is nie omdat sy so gereeld in ons ateljee is wat jy kan sê Zelda nie. Dit is wanneer jy so bekend is vir net jou naam dat jy al 'n ikoon is.
Daarom nie so.
Ja, sy. Nee, ons wag daarvoor. En natuurlik Sally Partridge. Sally is an award-winning South African novelist from Durbanville in Cape Town. Skerwe is her fourth novel that's been translated. The original title was Sharp Edges, and Zelda and Lunel translated it into Skerwe. Sally, so very welcome with us tonight in our studio. We are looking very much forward to speaking to you.
Me too. I'm excited to be here. I'm very underdressed.
Not at all. Perfect.
This is a very casual studio, so we are known for that. So you just dressed just right.
Yes,
definitely.
Yeah. So I loved this book, Sally. Really, it's really amazing, and I think Zelda was the perfect person to translate it. Because, I also love Zelda's books, and even though you can see it's not Zelda who wrote the book, there's a lot of Zelda's type of story, Zelda's kind of character in it. So I think it was just a perfect combination.
Oh, thank you. I think so too.
Yes, I think you're quite a formidable team, because if you just... weet jy, as jy Skerwe lees, dan kon dit net sowel 'n Zelda boek gewees het. So in tune is julle twee. En ek dink Zelda was daarom 'n uitstekende keuse, want die skrywerstem bly altyd behoue in 'n vertaalwerk. En tog is die storie iets wat ek ook met Zelda sou assosieer, as ek dit so kan stel.
Dis baie interessant dat julle dit sê, want ek het nogal vir Trisa by 'n ander geleentheid gesê, Sally is vir my, die ding wat ek die meeste van Sally se skryfstyl hou, is dat sy nie haar lesers vlak vat nie. Haar lesers is intelligent. Sy weet hulle is intelligent, en soos wat jy gesê het vandag, Annelies, Sally gee vir hulle die geleentheid om afleidings te maak. Sy voer hulle nie al die oplossings nie. En Sally is 'n absolute meester as dit kom by showing not telling. Ek het weer die Engels gelees vandag, en daar is net nie telling nie. Alles is showing. En dit help natuurlik dat sy hierdie wonderlike karakters het wat elkeen 'n beurt kry om te praat en te wees, en deur hulle leer jy al die ander karakters ken, maar dit is meesterlik gedoen. En om terug te kom na die Afrikaanse titel, Sally, van Sharp Edges, ons het 'n hele paar titels gehad, en het op die ou end besluit op Skerwe. Lunel het opgekom met daai baie lekker titel, en dit het so goed gewerk, want die boek is ook vir my soos 'n klomp, jy weet, shards. Dis verskillende skerwe wat op die ou en eers hier aan die einde. Verstaan jy hoe dit alles in mekaar sit?
It's a brilliant title. I loved it. Yeah.
I also love that title. But it just how you didn't do it chronologically at all. There were bits and pieces, and I mean the unfolding at the end was it was like a fist to the stomach. You know, it was just something I did not expect at all. So I really, really loved. I thought it was a brilliantly written story. Well done.
Thank you. It was something I wanted to try, writing a book back to front. So you know the ending from the beginning, and then you slowly work your way back in time as the truth slowly unfolds through different people's perspectives. And I like that. One of the things, my mom used to read a lot of Agatha Christie novels. And I used to read them as well. It saved me a trip walking to the library. And one of the things in the Hercule Poirot mysteries is that no one recalls the same story in the same way. And that idea stuck with me. So I wanted to tell the story, but, you know, not the whole story. You know, you have to work it out by listening to everyone's recollections. So that's kind of like the idea.
That's exactly what you said. Yeah.
And it's exactly what Zelda said. I never felt that she underestimated me as a reader. And the other thing is, I never felt it was a young adult book. I felt it was like a novel about young adults. I don't think it's
I agree.
It's like a novel in its own right.
Thank you.
About young adults, with young adults as characters. But still,
I agree 100%. Yes. That's what was so impressive to me, is that anyone of any age can read that book, and there's no talking down or softening the edges. The edges are sharp. They're really sharp and shocking, and you know, it's all there. Nothing's been sugar-coated. I loved that. I loved that you were that brave, and that you were allowed to be that brave, you know, by your publisher. Did you have to fight for certain aspects? I know it's been a while.
No,
can you remember? Not?
No, not at all. You know, going back to when I was, you know, growing up and reading the same books that my mother read, she used to read a lot of Stephen King novels. And a lot of early Stephen King novels have child protagonists or teenage protagonists. If you think of Christine, It, Salem's Lot. They're all
that novella, The Body. Yes.
Yeah, and there's a very, very stark and very disturbing book that just came out recently called My Dark Vanessa, which is told,
I know about that.
You know, from a child's perspective, where she meets a predator. And, you know, what strikes me about these novels is that, again, they're not sugarcoating what the childhood experience is. You know, when kids go to a music festival, you know, they're not running around holding hands, drinking hot chocolates, you know, sitting in a circle and playing guitar. So, you know, it was very important to me to actually write, you know, the truth. And at the same time, you know, I don't try and, you know, keep up to date with what young people like and how they speak. I stick to very universal themes. So, for example, first love, first betrayal, first disappointment. It's all themes that unite us, you know, whether you're young or old. So, you know, in that way, it translates whether it's young adult fiction or adult fiction as well. It's truth in a way.
Yeah, but that is like real life, Sally. All the elements of real life is what you just mentioned. And also a lot of guilt and forgiveness, self-forgiveness. And the element of guilt, that is so typical of teenagers. And I think they can really associate with all that kind of feelings. You know, whether they can admit it to themselves or not, subconsciously or consciously.
Oh,
so that makes it a very real story.
Well, thank you.
One of the things that I specifically liked is, well, I think you wrote this book in 2013 already. Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah, around there. And now it's being translated 7-8 years later. And the story is as relevant as it was then and as relevant as it will be in 20 years' time and as it was 20 years ago. So about the story, there is, you know, it's not time-bound in any way.
Not at all.
I suppose some of the language that the teenagers use could be. Zelda, did you find that?
Yes, well, not that much, but there were things here, Sally, a few things that we changed that were not that relevant anymore. Just if I'm just thinking of references, for instance, at one point, I think it's Demi or who refers to, let me just look, I actually made a note about it. Patterson, the actor from and he's not really that in vogue at the moment, so we decided to change it to Cole, what's his name, from Riverdale.
Yes, I love him.
Yes, that's what we did. We did, but not really too much of that. For instance, where what's her name? Her father, Annika, and she was Ashley in your book, and she became Annika in the Afrikaans book, where her father drives in his Nissan with V. Remember that scene? And he's got a few CDs, and he's got Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. And because people don't really listen to CDs in their cars anymore, they have their phone. And exactly, yes. Yeah. Then what we decided was, let's keep Nick Cave because there's another reference to him, and he's obviously important to the father. But we had her say something like, "Ooh, Nick Cave and CDs, that's old school." And then he goes, "Yeah, I am old school." Yeah, so we made slight changes just to have it all make sense. Let's put it that way, but not a lot, not that much actually, Annelies. I thought very little. Yeah.
I suppose it has people, you know, that we all sometimes experience. I have a book that's currently being edited that's coming out either the end of this year or next year. And when I wrote it about 5 or 6 years ago, half the technology is not there anymore. So you know, it's not something you can really foresee, which is why I prefer to, you know, stick to universal themes that tie us all together rather than the nitty-gritty of, you know, youth pop culture, because that ages so quickly.
Yeah,
like
that's
exactly.
No one listens to CDs in their car anymore. I mean, everybody has Spotify now. I mean, I did an interview last night where I, you know, confessed I don't even know what TikTok is.
Yes. You know, like, that's brave to confess.
Never used it. You know, I see funny videos on Instagram, and I'm not even, I don't even care.
Yeah, but then of course there are others that you can't leave out. Like, I mean, it's a reality that teenagers today are on WhatsApp 24/7. So that's sort of something that you have to bring in again, I suppose.
Of course, you know, when you one of my earlier novels dealt with bullying. You know, nowadays cyberbullying is, you know, such a huge problem.
Huge.
And, you know, nudes ending up on the internet and things like this. So, but again, hopefully that will age out of existence.
Yeah, maybe eventually, and something else will take its place. Something equally shocking.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh, another thing I thought of is you had in the tent at the music festival, they were listening to Balkan Beat. Can you remember that? And I think we changed that to Calvin Harris's Summer. But now, of course, I was looking for something that wouldn't age that quickly. I mean, for the past year and a half, nobody's gone to festivals. So in a way, there's a bit of a freeze frame thing happening at the moment, and we don't have that kind of culture. But it will return, I believe. And then it's like hitting that pause button and it all starts again, But it was interesting. Those little twists when you translate a book, it becomes quite a challenge. And when I read through our Afrikaans again, I thought, well, it flows nicely and it looks like it must have been quite easy to do, but it wasn't necessarily. Linnell worked on it alone for I think 4 or 5 weeks, and then I took what she did because she was. Well, we were both adamant about keeping your voice as a writer, being true to your voice. And we were afraid that I would, because I also write youth novels, that I would take too many liberties. So that was our plan, that she would do the nitty-gritty and make sure that we are 100% Sally, 100% genuine Sally. Your voice. And then things that were not working in Afrikaans, that we didn't really have a choice, but we had to change them or interpret it differently. That's where we made the changes. That was our game plan. And I think it worked very well. But what you would think that it would just flow when you do the work. But you get stuck on one word and you have a half an hour discussion whether you should say, whether you should use this word or that word. It was actually quite amazing. It was such a growth experience and a learning curve for me. Yeah.
There's a question for you, Sally. Can you read from Nadine Patrick?
How many experiences that you write about is something you've experienced yourself? I think it's crucial to draw from your own experience. If you're writing a book set in a music festival, it helps to have gone to one physically yourself, because it makes describing things accurately and truthfully quite much easier. So if your bag is unfortunately snatched and you have to go to a police station to fill out a case, to file that your bag was stolen, the whole experience of the pencil and the paper and writing it down, and, the policeman writing it down in pencil himself. And, that type of thing is, you can't not have gone through that. So, for example, if you're going to write about going to Claremont Police Station and filling out, a charge against someone, and the policeman brings out his iPad and starts taking your statement, the reader is going to know that that's not authentic. So, I made the mistake early on when I was writing a short story. I was obsessed with some other small town and I wanted to set a story there. But if you haven't been there, that authenticity isn't there. So my last novel was set in Jeffreys Bay, and I love Jeffreys Bay. It's my favorite place in the world. I'm writing a novel set in Hogsback. So, it helps you, describe things. And so, everything is from your own experience. Even when you're talking about heartbreak and, betrayal, you intrinsically draw on, when that happened to you.
Absolutely. But I think what that person wanted to know is whether you had done lots and lots of recreational drugs in order to write this story, Sally.
Well, trust you, Zelda.
No.
Oh man, we were hoping for some scandal.
The truth is, I used to work for a newspaper, and I was their entertainment journalist, and I had to go to lots of festivals as a journalist. So it was work.
Of course.
I wasn't running around having a great time. I was actually working. I'm actually quite a homebody.
No, we can tell. You told us about your translucent skin and that you haven't been out for a year and a half. You are definitely a homebody.
Well, that's thanks to the pandemic. But
yes, that's true. It's not by choice.
Yeah, not by choice. I love traveling. So one day, I hope to draw on those experiences as well. Like I went to, when you visit other countries like France and the Netherlands, it almost seems like a waste to not write, set a book there.
Not to integrate it into your writing, portfolio. I agree.
Yeah.
But now that we're talking about the drug use in the book, which is, I think you did it so well. When you write for teenagers and young adults, you can so easily become preachy, and you think you can just slip in a little thing here or there, and it wasn't necessary for you to do that, because I found some of the scenes just quite shocking as an adult, because when I was that age, we had different vices. We didn't have those kinds of festivals and so on. But I could, as you said just now, the universal thing is definitely there, because I could see so much of myself in Ashley, which is Annika. I just always feeling not quite part of the crowd, trying so hard. I think she took her book to the festival. I mean, who does that?
Me?
I would do that. Yes, exactly. Yes, more of us would do it. The only 4 people in the country. But
I assume a lot of serious readers and writers would do that.
Yeah. So let's ask something here. Sorry, Sally.
Yeah.
Oh no, I was just going to say, as a writer, we're very empathetic and we're natural storytellers. So often when my partner and I go out to restaurants, and there's a couple, and the woman is looking very frosty and he's trying to hide himself in his salad, I immediately start telling my partner that story. Like, this is what happened, this is why they're upset. And I do it all the time. So, when I used to go, when I go out to clubs or music festivals or shows or even to the beach, and you see young people, and I immediately start putting 2 and 2 together and telling their story, So, when I went to, okay, I'm not going to say the festival's name, but, when I actually went to go see Skrillex as well when he was in South Africa, and everyone was absolutely wasted. There were people, young kids lying on the floor, just out. And again, I was there as a journalist, and I was reporting on the story. So, you notice everything, and I think that's why it's so easy for me to, create these stories, because I'm noticing everything with a journalistic eye, but I'm also noticing everything with storyteller's eye. I see what's happening. I want to know why and who it's happening to. So instead of going to go ask them, because I'm also an introvert, I just make up their story.
Yes.
So you get the outlines and you color them in.
Yes, I love that. I color them in.
Yeah,
yes. It works beautifully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you see Celette's question there? I think it's really interesting what she's asking.
Do you want to help me translate it?
Yes. She says she's from the Netherlands, and she says there's so much criticism at the moment about young adults, or she actually says youth literature, with that has I would say shock value, just for the sensation value of it. And she wants to know whether you have a sort of whether you limit yourself when it comes to that, where you have whether you have a border or that you would not cross in order to say, I do not write about this. This is too much. This is not something the youth should be reading. Do you put those kinds of limits on your writing or not?
So when I write books for the youth, the idea is to tell a good story while trying to be authentic and not preachy, because that's important. But I also like to unpack things so that the reader is able to recognize, what is happening to the character, step into their shoes, and be able to find out how to deal with it in their own lives, or recognize the consequences of what is happening without preaching. So that's important. So I don't really think there are any topics I wouldn't tackle, but if I do tackle them, I would tackle them in such a way that it actually helps. It's almost like a parable. It helps the reader understand and recognize consequences and avoid, pitfalls. And because at the end of the day, writing for youth, you have a responsibility to your readers.
Yes.
You don't go out to write kids behaving badly with the intention of readers going out to behave badly. The intention is for them to recognize what happens if they behave badly and not do it.
The intention is quite the opposite.
And I mean, what I loved about this book was the realism of what's happening. Nothing in there is like, oh no, that can't happen. Everything in it can happen and has probably happened somewhere.
Yes,
and I love that aspect of it.
With the sharp edges and all. It's like just authentic and real.
That's it. I think no shock value just for the sake of shocking. I think that's what you do. You don't do that. It's all very realistic. This book to me there was nothing there that could not happen and would not happen. I think it happens all the time. Nadine asks whether translation comes easy for me, or is it like pulling teeth? I did a lot of translations in my life. I've never translated a book before. So I was in advertising for 30 years. So I did so much translation while I was, from English to Afrikaans and Afrikaans to English. But this was my first book, apart from my own book that I translated into English with the help of two friends. I had two partners. But it does come, I think it comes quite easily, but it all has to do with how much freedom you have. And when we asked our editor, when she gave us this job to translate Sally's book, we asked her how much freedom we have. And she said, please stay true to Sally's voice. So that was very important to us. So we couldn't just, because a scene felt a little bit, or a sentence didn't quite work in Afrikaans, we couldn't just change a few words or maybe change the scene. We couldn't do that. We had to stay true to Sally's voice. So that made it a little bit more difficult for me, because in advertising, I often was told to interpret it in Afrikaans. So as long as it worked, if it was a television ad, I could use any copy. I could write my own copy as long as the message was carried across the same way, and and you know that it reached the target market and it said the same thing as the English. But this was more of a challenge. Definitely it was. So I wouldn't say it was like going to the dentist. It was much more fun than that. But it wasn't the easiest of things to do. I've had easier projects, but luckily I had Lunel, so we were a team, and that helped a lot.
Did you translate it sentence by sentence, or how did you do it?
What we did was we read the story first. We had to get an idea of what it was all about, and then we did the sentence by sentence thing. In my case, I went back and looked at the different characters, and they all have different voices. That's so amazing. Sally, your characters all sound different. You know, James has a very, very distinctive way of talking, and he swears a lot, and he's, you know, and they all, and Ashley is more of that introvert. She's got a whole different vocab. So looked at that, and then did the finer aspects, and then of course towards the end did some serious tweaking as well of small things. So the sentence for sentence thing was there just to make sure that we don't miss anything, but that was a very small part of the actual project.
Yeah.
Yes, but you mentioned as a team, your teamwork. It really strikes me how well you work together as a team, and especially you, Zelda, with Lunel. You've written a radio drama with her. Now you did translation with her. Annelies and myself wrote a book together, you know, and translation, writing in itself is teamwork. So I wonder if there's some kind of trend that we're setting here with teamwork projects.
Oh, I'd love to work with Zelda on a novel. I'd love.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Oh, good.
That would be something.
So we've got witnesses, people who heard you say that.
Yeah, this is going to be on YouTube forever. We've got you on camera.
Lovely. I'll call you. Okay, I'll get your number. Yeah, I think in order to work as a team, you need to know your partner very well. You need you can't be embarrassed about anything, because you often say things that don't make sense, or, you know, it's more like a stream of consciousness, and you need to feel free enough to do that. So I think that's why Lunel and I work well together. We've known each other forever, and we feel like sisters. So we don't mind making a fool of ourselves. You know, that helps. I'm going to hold you to that. Did you see that?
I did.
Expected email.
A funny anecdote about partnerships. My partner and I are writing a game together for Steam, and often when we're brainstorming, I'm terrible at multitasking. So I say something and mean something else completely. So
now she's already trying to get out of it.
No. There's the setting is quite medieval. So I said, you know, I broke down the chicken coop, you know, just so that you know. Yeah. And then he's like, the what? And then I'm like, a chicken coop. Like, you know, I moved it. And he's like, you mean the cow shed? And I'm like, yes, that's what I meant. Very, very good at interpreting what I say, but what I actually mean.
Chicken, cows, what? Who cares? Farm animals.
Yeah. Those.
Oh goodness.
So, Sally, you said you have another book coming out soon. What is that all about?
It's a love story set in the southern suburbs of Cape Town. It's either out the end of this year or the beginning of next year. It's from Mujaji, which is a women's press, independent women's press. So very excited about that. There's also
is it young adult fiction,
yes.
Sally?
Yes.
Oh, lovely.
Nice.
There's also a short story anthology coming out in English from Him and Rousseau in June. Obviously a mix of writers, not just me. And then there's another short story anthology coming out in July in Afrikaans from Pan Macmillan. So there's a couple of things this year still. And then I'm frantically trying to finish 2 projects at the moment. But I have I like to call it pandemic brain, you know, where you you're happily focusing on what you're doing, and then the next second you're doom scrolling on Twitter trying to find out, you know when we're getting vaccines, or when Donald Trump is around, what he's doing, and then
exactly.
Yes, that's pandemic brain. I'm so glad there's a phrase for it.
Yes.
In Zelda,
I'm so relieved. I'm so relieved it's a thing. And even young people get it. Yay!
Zelda, maar hierdie is seker ook 'n goeie tyd om vir jou geluk te wens met jou nuwe boek. Al die aanhangers van die konstruksie van Retta Blom. Kan nou uitsien na die waarde van stilbure.
Yes, I saw that on Instagram today. Exciting.
Ja, dankie Trisa. Daar foto bom my boek sommer ons videoetjie.
Ons maak van elke geleentheid gebruik. Ek kan nie wag nie.
Ja,
dankie.
I don't know.
Thanks.
Ja. En wat is volgende, Zelda? Gaan jy weer iets vertaal? Is dit iets wat jy weer wil doen?
Ek wil graag weer iets vertaal, nee, maar ek gaan nou eers saam met Sally 'n boek skryf. Julle weet mos nou.
Ja.
Ja, so ek en Sally gaan Kaap toe vlieg volgende week en dan gaan ons daar lekker. Ek gaan haar oortuig om uit die huis te kom. En sy gaan factor 50 oor haar hele lyf sit. Dan gaan ons Blouberg strand toe. Ja. Maar ek wil nou dink daar's 'n paar goedertjies in die pipeline, ook bundels en goed, miskien is ek en Sally in dieselfde bundel van Pan Macmillan. Is it the one about the uitroeptekens in die oë? Yes. I've got stories in there as well. So daar's sulke goedertjies wat in die pipeline is en Februarie volgende jaar is daar 'n jeugroman met 'n verskil wat by Tafelberg uitkom. En dit is 'n jeugroman vir leerders wat bietjie ek sou sê bietjie nie sukkel om te lees nie, maar jy weet dit is nie eerste taallesers nie, so is 'n bietjie anderste as die goed wat ek tot nou toe geskryf het. Dit is hulle noem dit iets. Sally, maybe you'll know. It's high content, low something else. Readability, or it's got to do with the story is exciting and fast moving, but the vocabulary
reading,
yes, but the actual grammar and the vocabulary is quite simple. Sure, that was a challenge. I found that quite a challenge to do, but that's coming out in February, and I don't really have plans beyond that. I think that's about it for now.
Okay.
Hello, Shauna Lisa. Oh, that's from Shauna Lisa. I missed that. Did you get it?
That one.
I think
that one.
That's the message.
Oh. What can I say, Sally? We like, they want us. The people have spoken.
Yeah, I think so.
Right,
I love collaborating. I absolutely love it. It keeps me writing as well.
Yeah.
And it's very inspiring.
It is.
I must say, I can't tell you how much I enjoyed this book. I wondered, do we have some time? How much time do we have left? Because there's something I wanted to do.
If you want to read something, you can do it.
It's just a small, I marked something because I thought it was a good way of illustrating how something that seems simple has like little pitfalls that you have to be careful of. Shall I quickly, I'm going to read Sally's writing, and it's really short. It's just a paragraph. It's actually dis 'n brief wat Demi, een van die hoofkarakter regtig in die boek, Demi Lee kom bring. Sy was Demi Crowley in your book. So sy het 'n bietjie van 'n anderste van nou. Sy skryf hierdie brief vir wie? Sy en wie is al vir ewig maatjies. Hulle beste chommies. Hulle het in die kleuterskool ontmoet. Toe hulle albei in die naughty corner gesit het. Okay. En sy's old school. Sy skryf 'n briefie. Sy en wie skryf mekaar briefies. So hierdie briefie skryf sy: This weekend is going to be sick. I can't believe all my besties are going to be in the same place for my birthday. It's even harder to believe my parents are allowing me to go with no supervision whatsoever. Do you think hell is going to freeze over? It's going to be huge. Okay, nou wil ons dit vertaal. Nou het ons gesê, okay, this weekend's going to be sick. Dis nogal nie iets wat Afrikaanse tieners sê. Hulle sal nie sommer sê siek nie. So ons hierdie naweek gaan awesome wees. Ek kan nie glo my hele squad, die besties ding in die Afrikaanse geleedere van jong mense is meer vir jonger, soos in laerskoolkinders, sal praat van besties en miskien graad 8 en 9. Daarna raak dit 'n bietjie te naïef, wil ek amper sê. So ons het gesê, ek kan nie glo my hele squad gaan op dieselfde plek wees vir my verjaarsdag nie. Dis nog moeiliker om te glo dat my maale my actually toelaat om te gaan. Dit kan dalk net sneeu in die somer. Haha. Dit gaan huge wees. Nou daai ook hell freezes over. Dit was een van die goed wat ons so lank oor gepraat het, want when hell freezes over, daar's 'n paar Afrikaanse uitdrukkings, maar sulke ou tydse uitdrukkings soos as die pere horings kry. Wat geen tiener gebruik. So dan gooi ons nou goed heen en weer en dit is nou maar net gesê dit kan dalk sneeu in die somer. So, jy weet, net om te wys dat 'n ou, dit lyk dalk asof dit heeltemal moeiteloos was, maar daar was nogal baie tamaletjies wat ons moes uittrek en kou.
Daai tamaletjie is baie soet, moet ek bieg, want ek onthou, ek het hoe lank terug hierdie boek gelees, en ek onthou daai term van, dit gaan jy weet, sneeu in die somer.
Sneeu in die somer,
ja. En jy kan dit natuurlik ook nie direk vertaal.
Ja, nee, jy kan nie. Definitief.
Dit was regtig well done, 'n lekker soet sweetie daar.
Dankie, maar wat 'n wonderlike voorreg om hierdie boek te vertaal, Sally. Wat 'n fantastiese storie wat jou die hele tyd boei. En jy weet nie waarheen hy gaan nie. En hoe hy so meesterlik aan die einde, alles kom net so pragtig by mekaar. Ek kan nie veel genoeg sê hoe dit my beïndruk nie.
Yeah. And it happens without any spoon feeding. That's what I loved about it. Yeah, there's adult novels that tells you more what's happening.
Can't get that right.
Leads you to use your imagination to fill in the gaps. It's amazing. I loved it.
Ja. En tog was 'n mens nooit onseker wat gebeur het nie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jy weet, dit is nie in jou keel gedruk nie, maar jy weet presies wat gebeur het. Jy weet
presies wat gebeur het en ons mag nie nou sê nie, want ons mag nie spoilers gee nie.
Ja, maar
Nee,
Dit was so slim. Dit was so
Brilliant.
slim hoe jy daai ding gedoen het. Ek
You know what?
very, very good.
You guys give me the confidence. I'm going to give this to my partner
Good.
to read. He's Afrikaans. So
You haven't given it to him yet. You must give it to him tonight.
yes,
You
I'm
should.
going to.
You really should.
Ja, nee, weet jy, ek dink nou net hier aan 'n dag wat ek in ons Wild Coast Mall geloop het en 'n vriendin van Kleinmond met haar groot shopping trolley by my verbykom en ons staan nou eers en praat en sy kom by die boekwinkel uit en ek gaan in en in haar trolley lê 5 boeke wat sy nou sopas gekoop het en bo op het Skerwe gelê. En ek is so spyt ek het nie 'n foto geneem nie. En dit was ook 'n skrywer van jeugverhale se ma. Jy weet dit was eintlik so oulik. Ja, ek moes 'n foto geneem het, maar Skerwe het heel bo gelê.
Dis
Ja,
wonderlik.
baie,
Ek hoop Skerwe
Dit-
gaan net so goed verkoop soos Sharp Edges.
Ja,
Daar sy.
ja.
Nee, dis wat ons daarvoor
Ons
hoop.
hoop so. Ons
Ja.
hoop so.
Ja.
Julle,
And I
ons sê
love
vir julle
cover.
baie dankie. Ons gaan
Thank you
klaarmaak.
for having me.
Ja.
And
Dit
Zelda,
was heerlik. Lekker
I've got you
gechat.
on WhatsApp now, Zelda. So
Ooh, man. Begin nou 'n ding.
Hier begin nou 'n ding. En
Nou
ons
gaan
het 'n
ons
liedjie
braai.
vir julle ook nog oor Skerwe voor ons braai
Okay.
wat ons
het
weer
ons
gaan
nog gefliek.
uitspeel. Ons
lekker.
is net 'n liedjie wat iemand sing oor Skerwe.
Oor
Ons gaan
Skerwe.
daarna luister.
Yes, maar julle is
En
oulik.
dit is net om balans te bring. Vir al die in die begin is alles techno hop, maar die hele lewe gaan oor balans.
Dis waar.
Kinders het gevoelens na alle kante toe en dit is hartseer en dit is wild, maar al hierdie dinge saam maak die lewe reël. So hier is ons wat die liedjieskrywer spesiaal vir julle gestuur het.
Wow.
Yes.
Dankie. Ongelooflik.
Ek sê daarmee sommer ook dan goodbye en baie dankie vir almal
En
wat
dankie.
kyk.
Sally.
Splinterglas, skerwe van onthou, was die wolke blou en die skemer, wolke om jou, wintersnag, reën val sag, was die wolke blou in die nag, blou soos ek jou onthou. Wat wil jy verstaan, wil jy regtig weet, waar slaap die maan vanaand? Wie weet waarheen verdwaal jy as jy droom? Tyd of plek, maar soos ek onthou as ek